Okay, I guess we could get started. People just falling. Hi, Nicole. Um, so the topic that I chose for today, I didn't really know how to leave it in
Hi,
the Facebook
everyone.
group. Hi, Nicole. Um, I didn't really know how to leave it in the Facebook group as a topic, but it's something that's kind of personal to me, and it's something I struggle with. So today we had my daughter's well check appointment. And every year we go through the same thing. My daughter's bigger. She's on the bigger side. She's up at the top of the weight scale, and her height is kind of leveled off. She's 14 now. She just turned 14. But every year when I go to this doctor appointment, we have the discussion about losing weight. And it just really it bothers me a little bit, but at the same time I just try to have conversations with her about food and what food is for fueling our bodies. But I think having these conversations around food and family members, friends, coworkers sometimes can feel hard. It's hard to explain what we're doing. It's hard to talk to our kids, especially our daughters. I grew up with a mom who was always dieting. She was always doing some kind of jazzercise or dieting of some sort. And then when I was about my daughter's age, a little younger, she started talking to me about losing weight. And that was the one thing that I told myself I didn't want to repeat with my daughter. But it's hard because every time you go to the pediatrician's office, it comes up. And then she starts asking me, questions about how to lose weight. And the doctor doesn't focus so much on the food. She focuses more on the movement, which I'm glad that she does. She's a really good doctor. But at the same time, I still have to have conversations with my daughter about food. And I don't want to ever use the word diet. I don't want to use a lot of like weight loss wording with her, just because I don't want her to have the same problems I had growing up around food. So I thought it was a good topic for this call because I think some of you have daughters too, teenagers, maybe some older, maybe some younger, but it's a different conversation, I want to say, with my sons than with my daughter, and I don't want it to be that way. Like, I know my younger one has a faster metabolism and he can eat a lot more than she can without gaining any weight at all. And so it's hard to have these conversations with our kids. Even at work the other day, somebody had brought in a cake and they asked me, do you want a piece of cake? And I was like, no, it's okay. I brought my lunch. I'm going to go eat outside. And one of the nurses, she was like, oh, you're on a diet? I was like, no, no, I'm not, but I just don't want any cake. And she was like, oh, I probably should skip it too, which I was like, no, you don't have to skip it if you really want it. But those kind of conversations are hard sometimes. So I kind of wanted to open it up and see if anybody here has those problems, or maybe some solutions on how we can talk to our family, talk to our kids, especially, or our daughters around food, so that they have a healthier way of looking at food.
I'll start because I have my 20-year-old. She has been steadily putting on weight since she graduated from high school. And the thing is she's not eating enough. And every time she tries to eat more calories and she thinks about the calories that she's eating, or not so much that she's thinking about the calories she's eating, but if she tracks those calories to make sure she's getting enough, then she goes and vomits. So she's purging. And so I've really tried to work with her with Fitme plates. Half your plate of vegetables, quarter protein, quarter carb. And if I can get her moving in that direction, then I'm hoping she'll start at every meal, at least 3 times a day. She's burning like 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day because she walks to work, is on her feet all day, and then walks home, usually, except the smoke, but off topic. But I've got to get her eating more calories because her body's just hanging on to the weight. And I know that if she ate more calories, her body would start letting go of it, and she would do better energy wise and everything. But it's hard to talk to your kids about food and not want to talk to them about the weight loss.
Yeah.
But doing the Fitme plates is how I've started with her. Just do this 3 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to consider what they eat throughout the day. Like, she has a good breakfast. They all do. They eat, except for my youngest. He prefers to eat at school, so I have no idea what he's eating. But during the day, she takes her lunch, and it's like a sandwich and some grapes and some carrot sticks. But on the days when she eats at the school, I don't know what she's getting. But if you look at the calories she's eating between breakfast and dinner, it's probably not that much. And so when she goes for seconds, at dinner, I have to kind of remind myself, maybe she didn't get enough to eat during the day. Maybe she really is hungry enough to eat 2 servings or whatever. I have to stop myself a lot.
I have the opposite problem because my daughter's really skinny. And that also concerns me. Like, I don't think that she necessarily has a food problem, but I think she kind of forgets to eat. Like, my kids are different than me. Like, I always couldn't stop thinking about food. I would binge, all the things about food. But my kids are like, I don't really feel like having cake right now. And they don't. And they're like, oh, I'm stuffed, I'm going to stop eating. Right. And so I don't think that she's trying to be thin, but my husband's also 6'5", and he was like a beanpole forever. And so it kind of runs in the family, but I have to talk to her and I want to also be careful of being like, you're too skinny. Cause that's also like kind of the opposite of that, So what I try to talk to her about is like, can we just try to eat 3 meals a day? Like, your vitamin D is low, like, that's just healthy for you to have a lot more energy. You'd probably be in a better mood. So I kind of try to go that direction instead of be like, you're too skinny. Cause that sometimes she's like, God, I'm getting too skinny. And, maybe she's just a thin person. I don't know, but she also skips meals. Thing. And so I just think like trying to go cause I'm like you, Marlena, I don't want, I didn't grow up in a house that was my mom was always dieting, but my dad was always very weird about food. We had to finish a certain amount of food on our plate. We had to ask to be excused. Like, food was like a big, weird thing in our house. And I just don't want to do that with my kids. And so I don't want to talk about weight loss or anything body image like that and put the shame on there. So I'm just trying to do what Julie said, is just kind of go like the Fitme plate. Although that's so many words, but I'm like, oh, I talked about bone loss. I put the Fitme pregnancy thing on here that I got at the event, and I was like, hey, oh my gosh, I got something for you. I thought this would be super easy, like, because she also doesn't exercise. She homeschools, so she's laying around a lot. And so one day she came in and she's like, oh, I had to run out to the end of the road and like do something. And so I moved the move because my thing's more like, I don't want you to exercise for losing weight. I want you to exercise. Let's get some muscle on your body. Let's like be strong. It's like, and then I tried bone loss, which that's a little bit over her head. But I think just kind of trying to do like, let's just be healthy and strong route is better than like and that's even a good route for, I think, people, kids who are struggling with their weight, is going the healthy route. Cause gosh, I just don't want anybody to ever have to suffer through food issues like I did. It's just horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've started, so we've changed a lot of our eating habits, and now my husband's getting on board with eating better. And so, like, which is really exciting, right? I mean, he never discouraged me from doing anything because I was really just adding vegetables, right? And not doing, I was limiting my eating out. But now it's like, I mean, it's affecting the whole family, but we're trying to, my husband will bring my son a Coke every day for my mom's, just a little small Coke. And so the other day I asked him, I said, is this for you? And he's like, no, I brought it for Keenan. And I said, well, would you drink it? And he's like, no. And I said, then why are we giving it to him? Like, let's save those for treats. Like I don't want to use bad. How you were saying, I don't want to label it as bad food or it's, bad for you or, so I was just like, let's save that for treats. And the other day when Kanan had a friend over, he was asking where the chips were. I don't keep chips in the house anymore. And so Kanan is like, oh, we can only have those for treats.
So he's learning. He's learning.
He's learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's learning. And so it's cool because we still, well, if we have a movie night or if we do, if we're having people over or if we're just going to sit in the backyard and have a fire, we'll get a bag of chips. And
yeah,
we're not trying to make a big deal about it, but trying to say, hey, these are treats. This isn't for every day, because we would eat a bag of Doritos every day. And so I think that's helped me with them. And, but like the veggies has been hard for my family to get on board. And my kids are big as well. And so when we go to the doctor, it's the same thing. And I'm like, no, we're not talking about weight. Not with my son, not with my daughter, and the doctor looks at me and she's like, well, why don't we start going for walks, and so I appreciate that, but it's like, no, we're not, they're big. Their dad is a big man. He is 6 foot, 300 pounds. He is a big dude.
Yeah.
So,
I hadn't thought about that, having that conversation with the doctor of we're not going to talk about weight. That's a good one.
Just because I think it affects, I mean, even like whenever I get on the scale and they have it down to 120 pounds and I'm like, really, guys, come on, that I'm not even near that. Don't make me feel like a shithead when I stand on here and it's all donk.
Yeah.
So this last time whenever I went, I had moved it, and I mean, I'm still right. I got weight and I'm okay with that. But I'm like, hey, I'm down a couple pounds. And they looked at me. I was like, this is awesome. And she's just like, oh, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One conversation I had with her, when she was young, it was a few years ago. I think when I first started Fitme, she was asking about food. And I kind of did a comparison of like a vehicle, putting gas in a vehicle, fueling a vehicle. I said, if you put the wrong gas into the car, it's going to break down. It's not going to run well. You're going to have a lot of problems with it. But if you put the right fuel into it and, the car is going to go good, you're going to feel better. So it's the same with your body. If you're fueling to feel good, if the food makes you feel good, you're going to feel a lot better. So I think just stopping before you speak about food with some kids and just kind of thinking how you're gonna say it.
I also kind of think like kids aren't dumb. And so sometimes giving them, instead of like, we should be healthy, or, like sometimes giving them a little like background as to like what all this means, if loose science stuff, you know what I mean? In terms of like, health and movement and food is fuel and it fuels your body and you need, you burn a certain amount of calories just sitting there. Like, I know that sounds like whatever, but that clicks to us. Like when we get education and we hear like the reason behind it, we're like, oh, that makes more sense. And so realizing that just kids aren't dumb, and they just don't know how to ask, like, what does that mean exactly? They're just like, oh, whatever. So I
Yeah.
don't know. The thought I just thought about.
Can I read your chat, Natika? Is she listening? Or I could just tell everybody there's a chat from Natika. She's got some good info.
She can't hear me. She can't hear
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay.
She can
I'll
hear
read
me.
Natika's chat. She says her 11-year-old is sitting with her, but she's on the heavier side for her weight, and she's a swimmer who swims for 1.15 hours. 1.15 hours, 4 days a week. That's a lot of swimming. I frame our conversations around her supporting me with my journey, and we talk about how if she masters the battle with healthy eating, she won't necessarily have the same struggles when she's my age. So in her efforts to support me, she's building these habits without even realizing it. That's good.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. My daughter swam. She was in the swim club, and then she was also swimming high school team. So she was swimming like 2 hours a night, 5 days a week, and then meets on the weekends. It was fun.
Yeah.
But again, she wasn't eating enough calories. So, I mean, it kept the weight off, but she could have done a lot better, I think.
Yeah.
Well, like a kind of a good education piece for what Natika just said is like, when you eat good food, your body performs better. Like if you're trying to be doing a meat or, whatever, like kids, that's the kind of stuff kids grasp. Like when we eat crappy food, it actually bogs our body down. And so it's not about weight at all. It's like about, do you want to be a better swimmer or, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would have had this knowledge back then, because I think I could have really changed things back then as opposed to trying to change things now. And so yeah,
Good night, Carol.
it's a work in progress. But I did change things with Harmony. She gets treats every day, so she's not having an issue around, oh, I only get treats once in a while, and so I've got to have them when I need it or when I can. And I don't know, I've worked really hard with her eating habits.
And I don't feel like it's too late. Like it's not a lost cause, right? I mean, we're all on a journey now, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a lost cause, and we're planting seeds, and we'll continue to water it, and people along their way will water it, and we'll have to interrupt some of those thoughts, that they learn or pick up and as they go along. But it's just that continued support and just remembering that those seeds are planted,
Yeah.
and that they're watching.
They are. Even the parents are watching.
Yes, they are.
When I go stay at my mom's now, she makes sure to have Fitme plates because she knows that I'm going to bring my own vegetables if she doesn't, which I do anyway, just in case. But she always makes sure now that we have a carb and a veggie with dinner and the protein. She always has the protein, but it's really interesting how even they change. I don't know that they do that all the time, but they know, what's good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Linda. We were just talking about how to talk to our peeps about food and without bringing up too much of the diet culture BS.
It's tough. I've talked to my kids about it a few times, especially my son. He's asked me before, so I wait for him to ask, and then we go over, how he could slowly implement things, and he'll do it for a while, but then he slides back into his eating habits. So
Yeah.
he's, 21 and doesn't live at home, so I can't really monitor what he eats. And then I feel bad when I start talking about food when he does come home. So I try to be just complimentary when he cooks his own food and stuff, but
Oh man, it's hard. He made some protein and then I said, hey, I said, do you want this? Do you like asparagus? I have some in the fridge. He's like, oh yeah, I'll eat the crap out of that. So then he put butter and olive oil in the pan and all these other spices. And it was really interesting. It was like a gourmet type asparagus, but it was like swimming in what he used. And then I went away and I came back and he had his meat and his veggies and he was all proud showing me, Mom, look what I made. Look what I made. Want to bite? Want to bite? I was like, what are those piles of things on the side? I'm like, what is that? And he had made like I don't know, he had taken like mayonnaise and all these different things and created this sauce, but the amounts were huge. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my God. I mean, he just took something that could have been reasonable. Oh, I know what it was. It was breaded fish sticks. Okay, not great, but not horrible. But the amount of this thick, fat-based sauce is all I kept thinking in my head. And he wanted me to taste it, and I didn't even want to take one bite. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'll taste it." And I was like, "Wow, that's really spicy. Whoa, you like spicy food?" And I tried to just bite my tongue, and I'm like, "You should take a cooking class at school. You really love to cook." He's like, "I don't need a cooking class. Just." Anyway, it's really hard, especially because he has recently put on quite a bit of weight and he knows he has, and I know he's unhappy about it. It's hard for me to see, especially when he grew up active and playing soccer. And, we went to that pumpkin patch and a friend of his from high school kind of gave him a double take. And he was like, Tristan, like, didn't recognize him. And I don't want to say anything. It could have just been people change over the years, right? But in my mind, I was thinking, well, he may not recognize you because you look so different from high school. I mean, he's probably put on like 30, maybe 40 pounds. So it's a tough topic for me to actually just sit here and even talk about because it makes me really sad for him.
Yeah.
And then I feel guilty too. Like he's taken on, my bad eating habits.
And I think that's where at this point, like Raquel said, it's not too late. Like we can model the behaviors that we're learning now as adults. And, with our adult kids, hopefully they'll see that and they'll catch on. I think eventually with adult kids, they just will eventually have to decide on their own. It's like with my husband, I can't make him change his eating habits, even though he's got all kinds of health conditions. I can't make him change. He's got to do it himself. It's easier with the smaller kids when they're in the house with you because you are the ones who are providing the food. But when you've got adult children, they've got to decide that on their own. And you can just model and positive talk about it,
I feel like he'll eventually get there, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm just going to I hear you. Exactly. I completely agree with you. It's just hard to watch him eat so poorly, especially when he thinks that he's eating well. So anyway.
Yeah, it's tough to watch kids do that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there, definitely done that myself. So it's just like, the feelings, how hard it is for yourself and what you've been through, and you don't want that for your own children. And then here they are sitting in the same crap. So, yeah, but I know why he's
positive and supportive of him, and not focusing on those things.
Yeah. No, I know he's using food. Just like I used food when I was younger. I mean, I still sometimes do, but it's like a drug. So good topic. Feels gross, but it's a good one.
One thing, and this is like not about food, but I've just learned dealing with an adult child who is going through things is like, I can't, being too agreeable sometimes feels not like I'm enabling, but that it doesn't feel good, but also saying you need to doesn't feel good either. And so like, just what I've been trying to do lately is just ask questions. Like, oh, how, however you can lead into that without exactly saying that, because then they have to think about it themselves. And like, when somebody asks me a question, oh, how you doing? I don't know. Well, why is that? Or whatever it is, I may be driving in my car like, whoa, I really got to think about that. And so it kind of gives them something to take away. I mean, that's the only way that I have found, like, Linda, that helps me kind of feel better about the situation. I feel like I'm helping without having a lot of resistance and feeling like I'm a naggy parent, because that's really easy. Right? Kids think
I
we're
know.
like,
You know what I did
Yes.
after I I literally drew on the whiteboard. I said, hey, this program that I'm doing. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed to say this. I was like, I drew on the whiteboard really quick where he was sitting. And I was like, this program that I'm doing. And I drew the little Fitme plate and I cut it in half. And then I cut the other half in half. Shit. And I was like, so this part's supposed to be like the vegetable and this part's your protein and this part's, and then I drew a little circle in the middle and I'm like, that's your fat. And he was just like, all right.
That's when you
I was
got to
like-
tell him, hey, all of that's going to give you explosive diarrhea. And
No, I just said that. And then I took a bite and I told it was good. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean,
yeah,
I don't like sauces like that. But anyway, he is a good cook. And that's the thing. And anyway, so Leah, I felt good because I sent him home with lots of protein. Oh my God. And I divvied it all up and I put it in little containers so that all he has to do is take one out and thaw it. But he tells me he just eats the protein. And I'm like, well, that's good, honey. But, for satiability or whatever, to make you last longer, I'm like, you got to add some vegetables. And he's like, don't worry, Mom. I have fresh produce back, in Bellingham. I'm like, okay.
Linda, don't feel bad. I just drew that plate for my daughter tonight.
Is your daughter 21 and a half?
She's 20. She'll be 21 in March.
Okay. Okay.
Not too late.
Yeah.
And she still lives at home. So I mean, I make plates and I show her and this is what it's like. But I just drew that plate for her tonight. I had to laugh when he said he did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And sometimes it feels a little bit hypocritical too, because I don't always eat that way. I mean, sure, I do for dinner, but then after dinner, it's like, oh, kettle corn, chocolate chips, blah, blah, blah. Where's the section on the plate for that, Mom? So anyway, all right. Monopolizing the conversation now.
It's a good conversation.
I try to model, I have a treat every day, but I plan that into my day, into my calories, because I'm counting calories and macros and all of that. So I plan that into my day so I can have a treat every day. And so I model that for her. And hopefully someday she'll get it. But she needs to eat way more calories than she's eating. And she'll feel better.
Natika, you're looking cute.
Just took my braids out while we were having the call.
Oh, all right, ladies. Well, it was a good call.
That was a really good topic.
It's
Yeah,
just
it was.
every year when I have that doctor appointment with her, it's like we go through this whole thing again, and we're working on it.
And
I
it's
just
really
gotta get her
crazy
to
because I have two, and one is thick and one is not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
definitely a different dynamic, because one, the thin one, and the is 16. The other one, they actually wear the same size clothes. I think my 11-year-old weighs more than my 16-year-old, but the 11-year-old really does eat a lot better than the 16-year-old.
She's the
So,
active one. She's
Mm-hmm.
the swimmer.
Yep.
Good.
So
Yeah, my
okay, we
daughter
got a mama's
actually
genes.
eats good. Yeah, she's the only one that eats vegetables in my house of my kids.
Yep.
My little one puts one broccoli on his plate. So maybe I should draw the plate for him too. I should just get paper plates that already have it drawn on there and say, here, fill up. Hi.
Raquel, I don't know how late this call goes, but I want to say before we get off, I commend you. I think that is so brave and courageous for you to have that conversation with the doctor. I mean, when you said that, I was like, Raquel said that? You? Wow. I mean, what I do for myself, we're so mama bears. I can see you doing that for your kids. But when I go, I say, I'm going to step on the scale backwards. And please don't say the number out loud. They probably think I'm like nutso, like what the hell's wrong with you? And then sometimes it'll be on the paperwork. But anyway, I just didn't mean to turn that back to myself. I thought that was very courageous that you said that for your kids.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Until next week.
Thanks, Marlena.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.